Hold on tight, y'all, because what started as a peaceful weekend for MelodyShari just turned into a storm that no one saw coming. One minute she's sipping her drink, minding her business, and the next, her phone lights up with a message that would change everything. It's from her ex, Martell Holt, and let's just say the tone wasn't giving co-parenting, it was giving demands. No small talk, no respect, just straight up. He allegedly wanted money. Not for the kids, not for an emergency, but in exchange for seeing them. Yeah, you heard that right. Melody's peace shattered in seconds. And instead of hiding it, she did what only a woman fed up would do. She spoke out. She exposed it. Within hours, social media caught fire. Screenshots flying, hashtags trending, and fans choosing sides. What looked like a messy text thread became a viral moment shaking the internet to its core. But this wasn't just drama. It was a woman's breaking point, a mother saying enough. Because when love turns into leverage and kids become currency, silence is no longer an option. Melody wasn't just hurt, she was ready for war. MelodyShari had no idea that a calm weekend would turn into the kind of chaos that grabs headlines and won't let go. The sun was out, the house was quiet, and for once she was just a woman taking a breath after too many storms. Maybe she was sipping something cold, maybe scrolling through her phone, smiling at her kids' pictures, just living. Then came that notification. One message that shifted her whole mood. It was from her ex, Martell Holt. The name alone was enough to bring back a flood of memories, some sweet, most complicated. But this time the tone was different. There was no small talk, no check-in, no friendly, "How are the kids?" Just business. Ugly, direct, and cold. He allegedly wanted money. Not for bills, not for school, not for emergencies. No, this message hit below the belt. He wanted cash in exchange for access to his children. Melody stared at the words, frozen, rereading them again and again. For a moment she thought maybe she misunderstood. Maybe it was sarcasm or some poor joke, but deep down she knew. He meant it. And that realization made something inside her snap. She had dealt with a lot since the breakup. Heartache, betrayal, public scrutiny, but this felt different. This was her motherhood being turned into a transaction. It wasn't just about pride, it was about principle. The quiet house suddenly felt heavy. That calm she had earned after so much therapy and prayer evaporated in seconds. She picked up her phone again, not to respond privately, but to make it known that this line had been crossed. And when Melody speaks, the internet listens. Within minutes, her story started echoing across timelines. Her voice shook, not with fear, but with fire. You could hear the hurt behind every syllable. That disbelief that someone she once loved could try to twist fatherhood into a business deal. People might have expected her to keep it private. Maybe vent to a few friends, but Melody was past that stage. She'd spent too long protecting an image that didn't protect her back. So she went public, unfiltered, and unapologetic. The post hit like lightning. Her followers reacted instantly. Comments poured in faster than she could read them. Some offered prayers, others outrage, but all agreed on one thing: this wasn't normal. No woman should have to pay for her own children's love. The story caught fire because it wasn't just celebrity drama, it was painfully relatable. Mothers everywhere who'd felt manipulated, cornered, or silenced saw themselves in her. Meanwhile, Martell's silence only made the noise louder. He didn't deny it, didn't clarify, didn't even throw out a vague, "it's not what it looks like." Nothing. And in today's world, silence speaks volumes. Every hour he stayed quiet, the narrative tightened around him. Melody, on the other hand, didn't spiral or rant. She let her truth breathe. She shared just enough for people to understand the gravity, and that restraint made her look stronger. Her poise turned pain into power and power into a movement. But behind that strength, she was breaking in private. The thought of her children being used as leverage ate at her. She wasn't angry for herself, she was angry for them. She remembered the countless times she'd smiled for their sake, kept the peace, or stayed silent so they wouldn't grow up seeing two parents at war. Yet here she was again, forced to choose between silence and sanity. And this time she chose sanity. She chose exposure over exhaustion. The internet did what it always does. It dissected every detail. Was there proof? Were there messages? Was she exaggerating? But Melody didn't need to convince anyone. The conviction in her eyes told the story. It was never about clout. It was about drawing a line that should have been there all along. Fans started revisiting old clips, past interviews, even earlier posts. And slowly, they started connecting dots. Moments that once looked like drama now looked like warnings she'd been dropping for years. As the first wave of outrage spread, Melody sat back, quiet but unbroken. She knew what she'd unleashed couldn't be undone, but she also knew this time she wasn't the one in the wrong. For once, the internet wasn't mocking her, it was defending her. She had turned her pain into proof that you don't have to let someone control the narrative when they no longer control your heart. And as the weekend faded into night, the calm she'd lost that morning was gone for good, replaced by something sharper: resolve. Because if Martell thought he could buy or bargain his way through fatherhood, he was about to learn that some women don't negotiate with manipulation. MelodyShari had drawn her line, and she wasn't stepping back. By the time the sun rose the next morning, the internet had already picked its side. Melody's name was trending across every platform, and what started as one emotional post had turned into a wildfire. Instagram feeds were flooded with her quotes, TikTok creators were dissecting every sentence, and YouTubers had their ring lights on, ready to spill the tea. Melody's voice wasn't just echoing anymore, it was roaring. Her message had struck a nerve that went beyond fame or gossip. It was about boundaries, about motherhood, about the line that no man had the right to cross. But the deeper the internet dug, the messier it got. A friend close to Melody, who didn't want to be named, stepped forward to spill what they called the real story. They claimed this wasn't the first time Martell had made these kinds of demands. According to them, this had been happening quietly for months, sometimes through texts, sometimes face-to-face, always with the same pattern: money first, cooperation later. They painted a picture of a man using access to his own children as leverage whenever he wanted something from his ex. And that revelation, it changed everything. Fans went from shocked to furious. Suddenly, old screenshots started surfacing, messages that hinted at passive-aggressive ultimatums and subtle threats about playing nice if she wanted peace. Melody didn't have to say a word. Her silence confirmed enough. People began to connect the dots themselves. The narrative was out of her hands now. It belonged to the crowd. And when the crowd takes over, there's no controlling what happens next. The internet started piecing together timelines, comparing past interviews, even analyzing body language from old clips of the two together. What they found didn't make Martell look good. His charm, once his biggest weapon, was now being called manipulation. Meanwhile, Melody posted a single story on Instagram, a plain black background with white text that read, "You can't put a price tag on presents." She didn't mention names, didn't add hashtags, but everyone knew who and what she meant. That one line hit harder than a full statement. It became a rallying cry. Fans reposted it with captions like, "Stand strong, Melody," and "This is what self-respect looks like." It wasn't just sympathy anymore, it was solidarity. Women who had gone through similar situations started sharing their own stories in her comments, turning Melody's moment into a movement. And while Melody's calm grew louder, Martell's silence grew suspicious. Rumors spread that he was reaching out privately, trying to explain himself, saying his words were misunderstood. But by then, it was too late. The image had been painted, and it wasn't flattering. The internet isn't kind to men who look like they're exploiting fatherhood. Every hour that passed, his reputation took another hit. People were no longer asking if he did it. They were asking how many times. Melody didn't gloat, didn't add fuel. She just let it burn. And that's what made it more powerful. The storm she unleashed wasn't wild screaming, it was quiet conviction. And in a world where silence often protects the guilty, her truth had finally found its voice. As the days rolled by, the silence from Martell became deafening. His usual confidence had faded into awkward pauses and half-hearted posts that fooled no one. The same man who once strutted through interviews talking about family unity was now hiding behind vague captions about healing and private matters. But the damage had already been done. Brands that once collaborated with him started to distance themselves. His podcast sponsors went quiet. Every time he tried to defend himself, the internet reminded him of his own words: cold, transactional, and impossible to justify. Melody, on the other hand, moved differently. She didn't clap back or go live to drag anyone. She simply lived. Her presence spoke louder than any statement could. When she appeared at an event that weekend, radiant, composed, and smiling, the cameras caught it all. It wasn't just beauty. It was peace. The kind of peace that comes when you finally stop explaining yourself. Fans called her unbothered energy personified. Even those who once doubted her loyalty to the truth started to see. She was never the problem. She was the proof that healing after betrayal is possible behind the scenes. Sources close to the situation said Martell had tried reaching out again. He wanted to fix things privately, to rebuild the narrative. But Melody wasn't interested. She'd outgrown the cycle of apologies that led nowhere. Her focus was her kids, her career, and the newfound voice she had discovered through all this chaos. For years, she'd been painted as the emotional one. Now people saw her as the resilient one. The shift was powerful. The online world that once thrived on dragging her name was now protecting it. Anytime someone threw shade her way, hundreds of fans stepped in to shut it down. It wasn't about gossip anymore. It was about accountability. Melody had become a mirror for so many women, a reminder that walking away doesn't make you bitter, it makes you brave. And that sometimes, silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. When Martell finally broke his silence with a short interview, claiming things were taken out of context, the audience didn't buy it. The world had already watched the pattern unfold in real time. You can't unsee what's been exposed, and you can't rebuild trust with excuses. His charm no longer worked because people had seen the cost of it. What once looked like confidence now looked like control. Meanwhile, Melody's last move sealed her victory. She announced a new business venture focused on empowering single mothers, turning pain into purpose. The timing was no coincidence. It was poetic. The same storm that tried to shake her ended up becoming her spotlight. She didn't just survive the chaos, she mastered it. By the time the dust settled, one truth remained clear. Melody didn't win because she was louder. She won because she was done playing small. And in that quiet strength, she reminded everyone watching that real power doesn't come from revenge. It comes from peace. And if this story hit you right in the heart, then don't just scroll past. Tap that subscribe button right now because the truth doesn't sleep, and neither do we. Melody's journey is more than drama. It's a message for every woman who's ever had to rebuild her piece from pieces. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Martell deserves a second chance, or is this chapter officially closed? Let's talk about it, because your opinion matters here. And remember, on this channel, we don't just spill the tea, we pour the truth, hot and unfiltered. So like, share, and turn on that bell, because you already know. The next story? It's going to be even wilder. Stay tuned, stay real, and stay locked in. This is The Hype Spill, where the drama meets the truth. Meets the truth.